experience? I mean, the feedback from your operators about the experience of the machine?
My guys loved it because they could talk to each other, and especially when you're doing underground.
Right.
You're usually, when you pull up on a job site like this and a piece of equipment like that, you're waving your arms trying to get the operator's attention so you can make eye contact with the walk in front of them. This, you can be behind the guy and like, hey Nick, I'm behind you.
Right.
He stops, sees it, so it's a safety thing too. That, and like you said, just not being as tired at the end of the day is a big thing for my guys.
We heard that a lot today.
Yeah.
Jacques, how about you?
Well, I can really reiterate, what Casper's saying, and operator fatigue is a big deal. It's been mentioned a lot, and one can't stress it enough. I think, to really get the message across. They still have to be paid, however, at the end of the day. It's not like
Absolutely. Do you think, just another question, do you think as you attract other operators down the road, I mean, you see this as an advantage to attract operators over a diesel machine?
Oh yeah, big time. A lot of the older guys are hesitant. They're afraid of it.
Early on, right?
They're afraid of the technology. The younger guys are waving their hands. I want to jump on board.
Right.
But once everybody got on board and ran it, they were excited. They loved how easy it was to run. The noise and just technology. They figured out it wasn't so hard.
Right.
But yeah, big time. I can see other people coming on board.
And I guess for Anthony, same thing. I mean, this is his
Yeah,
first semester.
he was thrilled. Yeah, it was a great outcome for us, and other operators that we had on site, they all particularly enjoyed it. Also, we had occasion to get people that were really, diesel mad guys, the old school guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the resistance. It's just to say, hey, you need to modify the expectations and say this is an electric machine. And we had one or two occasions to have a good outcome by coaching and presenting these alternatives to diesel machines, and we were quite surprised with the outcome that they adopted it. From a really old school guys, it just they want all the diesel power that they think they're going to get, and then they become surprised.
Get over the fear and then quickly.
So it was just to modify the expectation, and once that was done, it was just happy days.
Sure. So Jacques, I'll start with you again. On the charging side, we talked a lot about that in the earlier session, but what was your experience with the charging solution? What did you learn from that process?
So we certainly learned a lot. Initially, we were confronted with having the ECR on our site.
Right.
And as you know, we work in very remote areas. We're not connected to the grid. So in the initial stages, the solution was to actually transport. So we had flatbeds. We would then transport it and take it to our yard. We would charge it initially on a 110, and then we tried it on the 220. And both of those solutions were successful. The 110 was a little bit on the margin in terms of getting it done overnight for us. And then the ultimate solution that we were striving for, and that we it was baked into the cake on this particular project for us, that we were going to get the solar solution up and running, and that was done prior to the overall completion, so it was out of phase work, but we found that to be a really good solution. So we had almost a 100 kilowatt harvesting solution on our site, and that could cater for the L25 as well when we trialed it. And we found that to be quite an exciting prospect for us, especially down the line for us, where we could.
Yes. Interesting technology that will only get better. So.
It's got to do with phasing for our works. In our particular instance, it's phasing the works a little bit out of sequence, but it doesn't pose any logistical problems for us.
Right. Super. Darrell, how about you? From a charging station standpoint, what were some of your experiences and your thoughts?
Yeah, mine's what I do is a little different than him. With that machine right there, we're going job to job, so it's mainly 1 or 2 jobs a day. So we're bringing it back to the yard and charging it overnight. And that was working pretty good. We're getting 5-6 hours of runtime, and that's with our breaker on it as well, which is doing pretty good. But the best method of charging for us was when Lars brought the battery back. We were able to bring it out to the job and charge it right there, and not bring it back to the yard every night. We were able to charge it on site. Now, for me, that was better.
Right.
For my guys.
Yeah, and again, I think the technology continues to evolve, and we now actually have part of a bigger group called Volvo Energy, which looks at the battery second charging, future life of the battery, but also different alternatives to charging stations. So still a lot more to learn, I think, for our industry, and I think working through customers, we get the feedback, and hopefully we can continue to evolve that. So I'm going to get a little bit more specific based on your company. So Darrell, with your company, you do a lot of federal projects. I think you've seen some shifts. We're starting to see shifts with the federal government looking to require, I think, more electric machines. At least that's what we're hearing. What's your take on what you're hearing in the, when it comes to some of the federal projects or even state projects, when it comes to requiring?
I'm a general or a subcontractor to the big general contractors in San Diego, so we're just hearing from them.
Okay.
They're seeing it more. It's trickling down to me.
Right.
This job's, before you bid on it, you got to make sure you're going to have,
Okay.
this electric on this, diesel on this. But yeah, we're definitely hearing more and more.
We're hearing more. Okay, good. And if the trend continues, what else do you see that you're going to need, and not just in the Volvo space, but are you seeing some other things that the federal government's starting to look at when it comes to electronics for electromobility for your business?
That's what I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just in general, as you start to hear more federal projects through these contracts,
Correct.
there's some other demands that are starting to come up that we need to address as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Big time.
And then I think, Jacques, so again, we talked about sustainability as part of your DNA. I mean, we talked about this last night. You work in a lot of sensitive areas, or you have to, manage, like national parks and things like that. So again, feedback from some of those customers that you have as far as looking at electric machines going forward.
So what we've discovered is that when we engage potential clients and we tell them at the prospects that the actual whole supply chain is going to modify for us in the future, it sort of puckers up their attention, and they get pretty excited about it. So we're dealing with an echelon of client which is receptive to that. So that is exciting. It would be different if we were catering to people that were maybe negative about the prospects. But our ambition is to educate the prospective clients that would be looking at something along these lines. And it certainly, it increases their interest, and to the extent that it's possible that that they themselves might be willing to dig deep, to meet with this transition, which might, at this particular juncture, might not be perfectly commercially the same as conventional methods, and so they can be sort of educated to the extent that they are excited prospects of paying maybe just a little bit more for something that is unique and is moving in the right direction, and it speaks to their own particular desires for a better future.
Yeah, so a lot more open than they've been in the
It's
past.
sort of a lofty ideal, but
yeah. No, great, super. So I'm going to ask maybe one or two more questions, and then I really want to get the audience involved. So again, just some additional questions. From a business perspective, how do you see the electric machine in your fleet? So you said, Darrell, you've been waiting for it, right? It's something that tomorrow, you wanted it yesterday. So
It's something we want to get jump on our competition as well. Demolition, what we do, I do everything from tear complete buildings down to little sidewalk panels to underground utilities. And a lot of times when we pull up on a job, we get kind of a bad rap for being loud because we're demo guys. So we pull up on a machine like this, it's quiet, it's green. It kind of gives us a little bit of advantage and a leg up, and our general contractors are pretty excited about it too.
Great. So Jacques, then, customer comes to you, maybe a colleague in another company, ask you about the electric machine, they're hesitant. What would you say to that customer that may change their mind?
don't be afraid. It's pretty much what we do with the operators. You do the same with the customers. I guess the potential people that want to hold these units in their fleet. There's a lot to consider. I think you need to consider what your workload is going to be like with that unit, what its proposed workload is going to be in that specific unit. You have to recognize its capabilities as well as its current limitations in terms of getting a full 8-hour day, right, which I think is a fair thing to comment on. But I would say really examine what your historically, from the amount of machine time that you would ordinarily have with a diesel machine, especially with small units. It's rare that you can keep these machines busy for a full 8-hour day.
Yeah, I have a question for both Darrell and Jacques. Were you surprised that you got equal performance from the electric machines and you did your diesel?
I was. I got operators ranging from 20 years old to 60 years old. 20-year-old were pretty excited. 60-year-old guys were like, yeah, this thing's not very strong. When you're digging in the soft dirt, it's kind of hard to tell what's stronger, what's not. So we put a hammer on it, hydraulic breaker on it. We ran into another machine that's diesel, similar size, and this thing was as strong, if not stronger. And that kind of changed everybody's mind. Once we put the breaker on it, then everybody was on board to, hey, okay, let's go to my job with it, you know? So that really determined to us that it was just as strong, if not stronger, yeah. I was shocked as well.
Jacques?
So just rephrase that question again.
Were you surprised that you got equal performance from the electric machine?
Okay, so I had no expectations to start off with. I had a clear mind, but it surprised me once we actually engaged in doing activities that we need to do for our particular projects. It was surprising to me. It did surprise me. I thought that there would be some compromise on power and on torque, and in fact, I think I found possibly something. It met my expectations and beyond, for sure.
And just one quick follow-up for you both. Do you have your operators trying to clamor for the electric machine when they get into work, or is it assigned to somebody? In other words, do the operators want to use the electric over the diesel?
I had one guy assigned, but I let all my operators try it on different projects, you know, for about an hour or two. And Nick was my main operator. At first he was hesitant. And then after the end of it, he jumped back to a diesel one. And he was telling me, man, I wish I had my electric back. Just because of talking and not being as tired at the end of the day. And so it took him a little while. At first he was, it's all right. But once he ran for a month, when he didn't have it anymore, he wanted it back. Yeah.
We had no particular preference from our, we just got a handful of operators, and as I say, it was a matter of just getting them to accept the different technology, and they were on board straight away. So they all equally are excited and motivated to be on the units. So there's no great competition. We offer the opportunity equally to everybody.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Dave, any online?